We are indeed very honored to have Mr. George Yeo here today to grace this event. Mr. Yeo is a senior advisor to both Quark Group and Kerry Logistics Network and has previously served in the Singapore government as Minister of Information and Arts, Trade and Industry, Health, and Foreign Affairs. We are delighted to have him here today, along with many speakers and panelists. And now, may we please invite our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Yeo, up on stage to give his keynote speech. Mr. Yeo, please.
Syed Muhammad Al-Habshi, Excellencies, Arab friends, ladies and gentlemen. When Khatija invited me for this event, I was intrigued and honored to be asked to speak at an Arab event. Singapore is a land of multiple identities. We're always arguing about it, reflecting on it, never coming to an ultimate agreement. I don't think the ferment will ever stop. It stops when there's no more Singapore. And that's part of who we are. In the sense, an event like this, it's not only a reflection, it is a celebration of our multiple identities. Identities are very important to a human being. The more you disrespect a person's identity or identities, the more angry he becomes, and the more fiercely devoted he is to these identities. But when you respect his identity, then he becomes very relaxed, and he jokes about it, and it becomes less important. It is very strange what identity means to a person, and not to the person we're talking to, but what it means to ourselves. And we're always wrestling with conflicting poles. This book, Arab Worlds Beyond MENA, when I lived through it, I thought, oh, it covers not just Muslim Arabs, it covers Christian Arabs. So that completely opens up a new universe. I mean, we know Steve Jobs was Syrian. Menem, I think, was Syrian too, or Carlos Slim. But we, in Singapore, don't think of them as Arabs, because for us, Arabs must be Muslims. If they're not Muslims, it's a little hard to fit it into our mental construct. But I recall, of course, that when my youngest son had leukemia and did a bone marrow transplant, he went to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, which was founded by Danny Thomas. And Danny Thomas was a Maronite from Lebanon. And St. Jude has the staunchest supporter in the American, Lebanese, and Syrian associated charities. A powerful group, but non-Muslim. And in my mind, yes, my son was saved by these philanthropists. And today, St. Jude is probably the biggest charity in the US. But I don't think of St. Jude as an Arab institution. But in some ways it is. And an event like this, a book like this, should open our mind to new connections. For me, my links to the Arab world are strongest through the Hadrami community. I took an early fascination to them and visited the Hadramaut in 2003 with Ubaidah. Although we spent only 2 days, 1 night there, it was very interesting. And we could see how so much of Southeast Asia is in the Hadramaut. So sambal belacan is common in most meals there. Many people wear batik. And the connection is not Singapore, it is Southeast Asia. Although Singapore is an important part of the story. Raffles during the Napoleonic War, Napoleon occupied Holland, so the British, with Holland's agreement, occupied Java. So he was there for 5 years. And he noticed that in all the towns, the animating entrepreneurial spirit was Hadrami. So when he was reluctant to leave Java, but they had to because that was the deal. So in Calcutta, he looked for an alternative spot to locate British interests and found Singapore. And to animate commercial life in Singapore, he got his friend Syed Omar Al-Junid to come over. And that seeded the Arab community. And where to plant them? Well, he said, well, put them next to the Istana. So you have the Arab Quarter. And it's interesting that today, Sultan Mosque, the Board of Trustees, 12 persons, 2 Malay, 2 Javanese, 2 Buginese, 2 North Indians, 2 South Indians, 2 Arabs. And as Khatijah said, the Arabs in Southeast Asia have been Parakananized because they intermarry. So in Ho Ying Singh's book, The Grace of Tarim, Syed Muhammad, I'll give you a copy just now. So he said, well, you know, the Sayyids came down here, the sultans wanted to have offsprings who carried the Prophet's blood, so they got the daughters to marry Sayyids. So my question to Khadija when I met her is, are you married to a Sayyid? And she said, no. I said, I read from the book that traditionally Sayyids can marry non-Sayyids, but Sharifas are under pressure to marry Sayyids. And so in this way, you maintain a certain organic integrity. And I was reflecting, well, yes, now Sayyids inhabit our istana. Singaporeans don't think like that. And maybe it's not PC to talk like that. But to me, it's wonderful. I mean, the Malaysian royal houses, the houses of Perlis, Terengganu, they are Hadramis. In Indonesia, which has a republican tradition, many of them drop the Sayyid name. But when you know the Sayyid and you talk about his ancestry, he comes alive. Ali Alatas was like an uncle to me, you know. I mean, he was very senior, very wise. He said, hey, when 2 Arabs quarrel, never get involved, you know. The moment you get involved, they'll both attack you. I thought that was very good advice, which I took care to observe when I was in the foreign ministry. We have concentric circles around ourselves. And sometimes we are sensitive, sometimes we are not. In Singapore, our ability to sense shades and differences make us what we are, and in fact drives the cultural arbitrage, which is at the heart of the Singapore economy. It links us to the Arabia, it links us to Southeast Asia, and through events through events like this, it links us to the entire world. Thank you.